deeper version of parts of a story. So characters, point of view, themes that we get in a story. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at a very traditional kind of fairy tale, or I guess, I don't know if that's the right word. So we're going to be talking about the Three Little Pigs. So everybody knows that story, right? It's written from the standpoint of a narrator that tells about the wolf that goes to each of the pigs' houses and all that. So what we're going to do is to help us learn kind of a twist, or to dive deeper into the meaning of characters and point of view and the themes of stories. We're going to look at that Three Little Pigs story from the villain, or from the wolf's side of the story. So has anybody ever read the children's book, The True Story of the Three Little Pigs? If you have, speak up. No one? Okay, so it was one of my absolute favorite books, and it kind of started me to think about how fun it would be to write a story from another person's point of view, which here I thought I was kind of being creative about it. And then they made that movie, The Descendants. So okay, so everybody right now needs to open up a new window, go to your Google Classroom, and watch The True Story of the Three Little Pigs video. And then we will meet back here in 5 minutes to discuss. Or let me give Erica a second to hit record. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to pull up some of the discussion questions that we have that go along with the story that we read. So I want everybody to kind of chime in and talk as you want to, really informal. Let's just kind of talk. And before I pull up the questions, though, what do you guys think of this story? Did you think it was cute, or any thoughts? Nobody? Okay. I'm going to share my screen with you and then pull up the questions, and we'll talk about it from there. Okay. So the first question that we have is the wolf says, nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. So according to him, why have people been biased against him this whole time? Like what kinds of things did he say in there to make you feel like he was wrongly accused, or why people didn't like him to begin with? Anybody? What type of a reputation does a wolf have? Like, are they known for being sweet and
bad?
Right. I mean, they're known as being kind of vicious, right?
Yeah.
So he's acknowledged that nobody's ever heard the real story because they've kind of been biased against him this whole time because of his reputation. And he even has the little, the moment in there where he says, hey, people would think you were big and bad if you ate cute little animals like sheep and bunny and pigs or whatever. So he kind of uses that to automatically dismiss maybe what the original story had, or how the original story had been told. And all of these are real important clues that you're going to need to use whenever you kind of rewrite your story. So think about all of these things. Whenever you determine what story you want to rewrite, you should be able to answer all of these questions about your character, okay? So the second question, how does the wolf continue to try to gain favor with the reader? What details does he give about his own story? So how does he automatically play on you to get you to be sympathetic to him? How does he get you to feel bad for him? Anybody? How does he talk about his grandma? Not everybody all at once. Come on, everybody contribute. how does he talk about his grandma?
That she's sweet.
Right? She's sweet. It says, dear old granny.
It looked like Devlin was trying to say something, but we couldn't hear you.
Okay, can you chat it, Devlin? Can you put it in the chat bar? He also says he's just trying to make a cake for his dear old granny, right? Mm-hmm. So he's trying to make you come over to his side, like, hey, all the reputation that you have about wolves is wrong. I'm really nice. I love my grandma. I'm just trying to make her a cake. Do you see how he's totally spinning all the ideas that we have about the big bad wolf? And now he's trying to get us to join his side, to see his perspective. Okay? So then this brings us to number 3. What details does the wolf include in order to distance the reader from the pigs? So now what he's doing, he's tried to get you on his side by saying, hey, these are all the good things about me. Now let me tell you about all the bad things about the pigs. Okay? He's like, they're not very smart because they don't build their houses well. They're mean because they won't loan me a cup of sugar, and it's for my sweet granny. Like, who does that? It's like he made himself look really good, and now he's making the pigs look really bad. Okay? And that's a really, really important part of being able to change the point of view, as well as the theme and the characters in this whole story. Okay? So when we go down to the next question, number 4, which details are the same as the original story? So a lot of the details are the same. He still has some puffs, right? Mm-hmm. The pigs still build their houses out of the same material. Okay, those are kind of the big, most important parts. There are 3 little pigs. They built their house out of the same materials. He still huffed and puffed and blew all their houses down, right? Those are all the main core details of the original story, and those are essential to recreating the story and making it credible. Like, if he didn't have those same, the same mainframe of the story, then we wouldn't even be able to see that it was actually the 3 little pig story, just with a twist, right? So that leads us to number 5. You have to have enough details from the original story to gain the trust of the reader. Okay? So you have to make sure that there's enough of the story that is the same so that you can actually tell kind of what you're trying to do as far as writing it from a new perspective. So what are some new details that we got from the wolf that we didn't ever get from the actual real story, or kind of the traditional story of the 3 little pigs? What are some things that the wolf told us that are new? Anybody have anything that they noticed that's a new detail that the wolf gave us? Why was he huffing and puffing?
The sugar?
He was going to the houses for the sugar, okay? Not because he was just trying to knock down their door. And why was he huffing and puffing? Was it because he was mean and just wanted to knock down their house?
He had a cold.
He had a cold. It's just the silliest little thing, but it makes a big difference to the story, right? And the original, or in this story, the wolf ate the pigs after they were dead, which that didn't really happen in the other one. He would just blow the house down and go to the next one, right? So in this one, he was like, think of it as a cheeseburger just lying there. And he actually ate them. So let's see. So what do these kind of details do to the main theme of this story? Well, I mean, more than anything, I think that it portrays the wolf as the good guy rather than the villain. Or at least it portrays him in a better light than what we get in the original or traditional story, right? So on the very last question of this one, it says, in the end, the wolf says to the news reporters that they jazzed up the story. So what point is the wolf making here about how we tell our stories? Like, if you are telling your friends stories, do you just tell them real dry, or do you give them all kinds of interesting details and
entertainment?
Right. make it much more entertaining, right? And so he's saying, listen, all of these things that they told you before are not, those details are not based on actual fact of what really happened. You know, I didn't say huff and puff and blow your house down. I just sneezed, you know. That the news reporters just jazzed up the whole story to make it interesting. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how I want you to kind of put all of this into practice with writing from a different point of view and creating kind of a new character, okay? And so the way we're going to do that is I have this kind of pre-writing sheet, because you know we've talked a lot about the brainstorming part of our writing process. So I've got another sheet here. Hold on one second. So this sheet is going to be kind of like your frame of how you are going to write with your new story, okay? We're going to talk about, or we're going to go through this kind of with the Three Little Pigs story, just so you can kind of see what it should look like, but it will be different because of whatever story you choose or whatever villain or bad guy you want to write about, okay? I do not mind, or I do not have any opinion or care at all what story you choose to write about. I just want you to write from the villain or the bad guy's perspective, and it needs to be something that you can write fairly quickly. Like this should not be like a 7-page paper. It should be like, you know, a page or two. It shouldn't, I mean, if you're telling the story of the Three Little Pigs out loud, it doesn't take any longer than 5 minutes. Okay, so that's about, if you're saying the story out loud, it shouldn't be any longer than 5 minutes, okay? It should be a simple story, but I don't care what it is, whether it's Spider-Man, Superman, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, like Little Red Riding Hood, Snow White. I don't care what the story is. It just needs to be from the villain's perspective, and you need to write it, you know, fairly concisely and quickly. Okay, so let's look at how you're going to kind of frame out what your new character is going to be, okay? So think about whatever story you're choosing, and you need to think about what characters are favored. Like, who is the protagonist, which is the main character or the good guy of our story, okay? What makes them likable, okay? This could be any, I mean, you can answer this about almost any story out there, okay? So who are the good guys and why are they liked? The second part that you should answer about your story that you choose is who is the villain in the story? What makes them bad? The villain is also called the, does anybody know? Protagonist is the good guy. What is the villain called?
Antagonist.
Antagonist. Thank you very much. So that is right. So now we're going to be writing from the antagonist point of view. This usually is not a fully developed character. Okay, we don't ever know why they're bad. So this is part of what you are creating whenever you're making this story from the villain's point of view. You're creating more depth to this character that they've never had before. Okay. So on number 3, we kind of like, well, I guess I was kind of saying that. So we never usually get told a lot about the villain. So make sure that maybe you can give them a motive, a background, a desire. Okay, so that's kind of where the wolf on our Three Little Pigs story, his motive for going to those houses was he's trying to get a cup of sugar. Okay, and it's such an innocent little motive, which then gives him credible for not being such a bad guy. Okay, so be creative here on what motives you give for your character. I mean, you can be so creative. There can be just, I mean, anything you could possibly think of. Just make sure that whatever creativeness that you give it has to be something that you can kind of back up with the text of the actual traditional story, okay? All right, so let's see. What details could be included to make you side with that character instead? So just like in the true story of the Three Little Pigs, the wolf says, oh, this was my reputation, but I'm really a nice guy and I'm good to my grandma and I was just trying to make her a birthday cake. So remember, he tried to pull you over to his side. You have to give details like that for your character. Okay? So you need to create some that will allow your character to kind of make the reader want to be on their side. Okay? And then just like in the true story, then you also have to kind of make them not like the protagonist. Okay? So just like in the story, he made the pigs look not very smart, right? Like, they're not very smart. They didn't share their sugar. Okay, so those are the ways that he, kind of discredited the pigs. So you're going to have to do that with your protagonist as well. Okay, and on number 6, what would the villain want the reader to know about his or her side of the story? Okay, so these are kind of the new details that, never mind. It's kind of, I feel like this one's kind of an extension of number 3, where you talk about the motives, background, and stuff. I don't know that one's much different. Okay, number 7, what values are implicit in the original's text favoring one character over the other? So this is usually a theme statement. Okay, so like the theme statement for the Three Little Pigs would be that the original story or their traditional story is biased against predators, right? So they're saying all wolves are bad. That's kind of the overall theme of the Three Little Pigs story, right? Wolves are bad. And so you need to kind of redo that type of theme and kind of twist it. Okay, and then the last part is you need to make sure that you give a reader a full understanding of who your villain is. Okay? Set the scene. Make sure you give them, things that have happened or a missing scene in the story that all of a sudden gives them the credibility of being not so bad, okay? And then on the final last question, what message you want to convey through your story, this is going to be kind of like your theme statement. It's going to be your opinion on this story and kind of how you're twisting it. What message do you want to convey or tell through rewriting this story? So the biggest thing that you're going to, the biggest thing that I want you to learn from this is how characters' point of view and the themes are, there's so many different ways that we can twist and change them, even with really like simple stories like the Three Little Pigs. So hold on one second. Okay. So I'm kind of excited to let you guys get creative and create some kind of cool stories. I don't want them to be any longer than one page. I want you to be just super creative and fun. Give your character depth, creativity. Give them a reputation that is actually worth believing in. Give them some really good. Show us the good parts of your villain and the bad parts of the protagonist. So I want you to use those 2 pages that I put in the Google Classroom to really frame out. And I want you to answer the one that's called POV writing, so that's point of view writing. I want you to fill that out, okay, and turn that into me along with your new story, okay? If you have any questions or you feel stuck and you don't know how to pick a story, or you want to know if maybe a story that you're thinking could be right, or you want some help, or you don't know how to get started, just holler at me. I'm right here, okay? Most of you should have my email, or you can message me through Google Classroom, and I'm more than happy to help you. So this is one of my favorite lessons that we do all year, and usually a lot of the kids get into it and think it's fun. So I hope you guys will enjoy writing your stories, and if you have any questions, just let me know. So, anybody need anything before we hang up? Well, we will see you all in 2 weeks, and check the Google Classroom for math because Miss Erica may be putting something in there at some point. Okay? Y'all take care.